You have your NFL receiving corps tier list. So you have your elite receiving corps, your good, average, below average, and horrible. I'm going to include wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. First, you got the Cardinals. Their last year, their receiving corps was pretty good, but this year they kind of got thinner. They lost Christian Kirk, and they did re-sign AJ Green, but DeAndre Hopkins coming off an injury, and then Zach Ertz is a good tight end, and James Conner, he's a good receiving back, but their depth is really thin right now. They have Hopkins, then Green, and then I believe it falls down to Isabella, but it's really thin right now. But they make it up with a good tight end, so I'll put them in average. Then you got the Broncos. They have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know, Tim Patrick, is he still on the team? But to me, their receiving corps isn't that great. Sutton, since coming back to the injury, just hasn't looked the same. Jerry Jeudy has been good, but not great, and I'm not sure who their tight end is. So for now, I'm gonna put them below average. They just don't really pop out at me. Then you got the Atlanta Falcons. I have no clue who any of their receivers are. All I know is their tight end is Pitts. And their running back, Cordell Patterson, is a good receiving back, but their wide receivers are horrible. Then you got the Browns. They actually have a pretty good, decent receiving core. They have Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper, and they signed Jakeem Grant, but he's not much of a receiver. And they have Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield, and then they have Njoku. He's kind of a mystery to me. And this receiving core has potential to be really high on the list, but Amari Cooper is coming off not a great. He did get 1,000 yards, but not a great season. And the rest of the receiving core, Peoples-Jones and King Grant's not proven receivers. They do have Kareem Hunt, which is good out of the backfield, and the Njoku is way too inconsistent. Put them on average. You have the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think they really did they add anybody in the free agency. I do not believe so. So they're stuck with Hollywood and Duvernay as their receivers. Their tight end is great. They have an elite tight end in Mark Andrews. And their running backs aren't really receiving threats. J.K. Dobbins, he's coming off an injury. Gus Edwards also coming off an injury. They have an elite tight end, but it's held down by running backs that aren't really receivers, and their wide receivers just aren't that good. I'm going to put them on below average. Then you got the Tennessee Titans. They have A.J. Brown and not really anybody else. That's why, and Derrick Henry's not really a receiving threat. They did sign Austin Hooper, but other than AJ Brown, they don't really have another second receiver, so I'm gonna put them below average. Then you got the New York Jets. Their receiving core isn't actually the weakness of the team. They have that receiver. I cannot remember his name, but the receiver they drafted, and they also have Denzel Mims and Corey Davis. That's a decent trio of wide receivers. Their running back Michael Carter's decent receiver, and their tight end, they signed CJ Uzama as their tight end. Their first three receivers aren't terrible, so I'm gonna put them at average, but they're young and unproven, and Corey Davis did not have a great year last year. Then you have the Rams. Their wide receiver core is Cooper Kupp, and Allen Robinson. They did lose Odell Beckham Jr. and did trade away Robert Woods, but they did sign Allen Robinson. They still have Van Jefferson, which I think is a really good wide receiver 3 and can make those big plays. They have a good tight end in Higbee, and the receiving of Cam Akers, he's okay. And to me, I wouldn't put them in the elite just yet, since Allen Robinson is coming off one of his worst seasons with the Bears, so I'm gonna put them in good. Then you got the Panthers. They still have Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore, was it DJ Moore or DJ Chark that signed with the Lions? One of those two. Christian McCaffrey is good as a receiver, but he's often injured. And other than Robbie Anderson, they have one more other receiver that I don't think they have really anybody else. And their tight end, who's their tight end? I don't know. I'll put them in average. Actually, I'm gonna put them below average for now. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts. They lost Zach Pascal and T.Y. Hilton, and they have Pittman as their really only receiver. Their tight ends are not that good. Jonathan Taylor is not that good of a receiving back. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think they signed any receivers in free agency, so I'm gonna put them in below average. Then you have the LA Chargers. For some reason, they're listed twice. Don't ask me. They have Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, and I think their wide receiver is Guyton. They did sign Everest, who's just a good tight end. Not great, not terrible, about average, slightly above average tight end. And they have Austin Eckler, which is a great receiver off the back end. And they have two good receivers, one wide receiver, one wide receiver 2 are both great. And the tight end is good. I think they have a good receiving core. But their wide receiver 3, if it was slightly better, I would have put them in elite. Then you got the Minnesota Viking. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen is enough. The Titans, uh, do they even have any tight ends right now? Didn't Conklin and Irv Smith? Irv Smith is more of a blocking tight end, and Dalvin Cook's not much of a receiving back. He's a good receiver, but wide receiver 3 is a mystery right now, and Irv Smith isn't really a receiving tight end, so they don't really benefit much on the receiving core. So I'm gonna put them in good. If they get a good tight end that can catch, I'm gonna put them in elite. But for now, they're in good. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys. They lost Amari Cooper, but they still have CeeDee Lamb and Gallup, but they did lose Cedric Wilson. So their wide receiver 2 is a bit of a mystery, and there are questions about how well CeeDee Lamb will do as wide receiver 1. They do have a good tight end at Schultz, and Zeke Elliott is actually an underrated running back receiver, in my opinion, and Pollard's not that bad. But that wide receiver 3 is kind of a mystery right now. I'm going to put them in good, borderline elite. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals. Tight end, definitely a mystery right now ever since Uzama got signed away. Joe Mixon, he's a good receiving back. He's definitely one of the above average receiving back, but it's wide receiver where they shine. They have three receivers that could be a top receiver on any other team. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd being an elite slot receiver. T. Higgins can get the top, is a big receiver that can jump, and Jamar Chase is just a great overall number 1 receiver. Rookie season was electric. They're elite. Jacksonville Jaguars. They did sign Christian Kirk. I'm not sure if DJ Chark is on that team. Did he sign with the Lions? I cannot remember. Either DJ Chark or DJ Moore. I get them mixed up. But then after that, they have Chenault, and their running back, they do have Etienne, who is a good receiver back in college. But to me, the receiving core, Christian Kirk's not really a number 1, hasn't proven himself to be number 1. Jacksonville Jaguars, if they sign a tight end, I don't believe so, so I'm going to put them in below average. They got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have Mike Evans, they have Godwin. If they had Antonio Brown, they would definitely jump to elite. But they replaced him with Scotty Miller, who is a quick, small guy, but he's a burner and he makes big plays. Tight end, Gronkowski, I believe he's coming back. If he's coming back, they're in elite. And Leonard Fournette's not much of a receiving back, but the rest of their receiving core pick up for it. Green Bay Packers. They signed Watkins. They do still have Lazard and one other receiver. What was it? Cobb, I think he's still with the team. So that's not a terrible receiver, but you don't have a number 1 in there. They do have Tunyon, and they do have Aaron Jones, who is a good receiver. And I think Aaron Jones being a good running back receiver, and they don't have a terrible receiving core. They do have Lazard, and Tunyon, but to me they're still below average. Then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have Claypool. They re-signed Deontay Johnson. No, he signed with the Panthers, I believe. But I think they're left with Claypool and Fairmouth, and that's really below average. And Najee is a good receiving back, but the receiving core's not that good. Then you got San Francisco 49ers. You probably have 2 top 5 in their position, George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. And Ayuk is a good running mate to Deebo. The wide receiver 3 is a bit of a mystery, but they don't use much of it. And Elijah Mitchell's good in the backfield. They have Jeff Wilson, who is a good out of the backfield. I think they are an elite receiving core with Ayuk and Deebo and George Kittle and Jeff Wilson. I think they are an elite. Then you got the Dolphins. They have Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson's a slot guy. He was good with despite being like wide receiver for the Cowboys, he was good with them. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is always good. And Waddle, he had a good rookie season. Out of the backfield, Mostert, Edmonds, Gaskin can all be a receiving threat. And Gesicki's a good receiving tight end, so I put them in elite. Then you got the Raiders. They have Waller, one of the best tight ends, Renfro, one of the best slot guys, and Devontae Adams. So that's just lethal. The wide receiver 3 is a bit of a mystery, but you don't really need that. And Josh Jacobs, not much of a receiving threat, but receiving wide receiver and tight end make up for it. I believe they are an elite. They got the Commanders. They signed Curtis Samuel. I don't think he's done anything with them. Terry McLaurin and J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, they're both receiving threats. Other than that, they don't really have anybody. They do have Logan Thomas, but he spent most of the year injured. I'm going to put them below average. Then you got the Seattle Seahawks. Wide receivers are actually pretty good. They have Lockett and Oh, why am I blanking out on him? They have Lockett and Metcalf, and the wide tight ends they got Noah Fant from Denver, and the receiver they have Penny right now, who's not the biggest receiving threat, but he can't catch the ball. Their receiving core is actually not one of their weaknesses, like many other teams, and I think they actually have a pretty good receiving core with Lockett and Metcalf and Fant. Then you got the Texans. They got Brandon Cooks, and that's it. Brandon Cooks. That's it. That's I'm sorry, but they only have Brandon Cooks and put them horrible. Then you got the Bears. They have one wide receiver, Mooney, and their command isn't that bad, but what else do you have? Tariq Cohen. Montgomery's not much of a receiving threat. Put them horrible. Then you got the Lions. They signed DJ Chark, and they do have St. Brown, the rookie that got over 900 yards. And DeAndre Swift is a very good receiving back, and they have Hawkins, one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. So their receiving corp is not that bad. And I think their receiving core is actually pretty good. You have 2 good receivers in DJ Moore, DJ Chark, I don't remember who, St. Brown, Swift, Anton, and Hawkinson. But St. Brown is I put them in average because St. Brown is just a rookie. But by the end of the year, I think their average fringe, they could be good. Then you got the Giants. They have actually Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, who was injured with them, and Sterling Shepard. So not the worst trio of wide receivers. Saquon Barkley's always injured, and tight end they don't have any. So I'm gonna put them in below average because mainly of Kadarius Toney. If they trade them away, I'm gonna put them horrible. I'm put them below average for now. Then you have the New Orleans Saints. The receiving core's not that good. They have Michael Thomas, but he hasn't played in 2 years. And other than that, they have Traquan Smith and Antonio Callaway. Alvin Kamara's a great receiving back, probably the best receiving back. And they have a no-name tight end. I don't remember who he is. So they're horrible. Their wide receivers are like wide receiver 3s, and tight end is an unknown. So there's that. Then you have the Buffalo Bills. They have Stephon Diggs. I don't believe Cole Beasley. Did they trade? They cut Cole Beasley, I believe. Did they sign somebody? I don't remember. Emmanuel Sanders no longer with the team, so they just have Stephon Diggs, I believe. They only have Stephon Diggs right now, and Isaiah McKenzie So their wide receiver 2 and 3 are kind of thin right now. Probably eliminates them from the great category. And Singletary's not really a receiving threat. And Knox is a good tight end, but he's more of a red zone threat. Stephon Diggs alone is going to put them enough in good. It's going to put them in good. But the rest of their team is kind of thin. Then you got the Cardinals, which I already put. Get out of here. And then you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Ooh, their trio wide receivers are more like a trio wide receiver 2s. They've got Hardeman, Juju, and MBS. No, not MBS. The Green Bay Packers receiver. So not great, not terrible. They have Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a great receiving back. I think that's underrated, and Travis Kelce's the best tight end. And Travis Kelce, I think, makes up for the lack of wide receivers, so I'll put them in average. Then got the Philadelphia Eagles. They have Devontae Smith. They signed Zach Pascal, but then they don't. Devontae Smith is okay. He was good this rookie season, but wide receiver 2 and 3, Pascal hasn't mostly been a backup. And I don't remember who they were like, Watson or Watkins. Watkins being their wide receiver 3 isn't great, but they do have a good tight end in Golder. And Miles Sanders, a good receiving back. I think they're either below average or average, but depends if you buy into the potential of Devontae Smith. But for now, I'll put them below average. Then you got the Patriots, the last team. They have, similar to the Eagles, they just have a bunch of wide receiver 2s. They have Parker, Bourne, Aguilar, who had a disappointing year, and one more, Myers, that was his name. Their tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, probably keeps them up in the running back committee of, Stevenson. He's not much of a receiving threat. Mainly their tight ends. They probably have one of the top 5 tight ends duos in the league, which helps out their receiving cores a lot. So I'll put them in average mainly because of the tight end. And then there you have it, my NFL receiving core tier rank.